we're certainly in a world of trial and error right now. I mean, if you look at the three fundamental key aspects that economists focus on, capital, labor, and productivity, there's a lot to be optimistic about all those countries. They've got a lot of money, they're sitting on vast populations and the good labor dynamics, and productivity-wise, they're importing a lot of technological advancements. But the fact of the matter is we don't really know. I mean, I think if you look at what China's doing, I think that they will, in the foreseeable future, I think, continue to pursue very aggressive policies which will deliver.
So of all of these, what are the top picks?
Well, I think there's another category which we do know is probably on the right track, and it's when we introduce political economy that we find it. We see a lot of countries where there's usually been a center-right government that's come in and introduced sort of good housekeeping seal of approval economic policies, and then there's a center-left government that follows them and legitimizes those policies by spreading out some of the gains from the economic growth that has resulted. We saw this in Brazil with Lula, but even before that we saw it in Chile with Bachelet. Now we're seeing it in Uruguay with Mujica. We might be seeing it in Peru and Colombia soon. And this is a class of countries which is preparing for stable long-term growth.
And all of the countries you just named are in Latin America, and they embody this new left consensus, but in fact it derives to some extent from the gains that were made by the center-right governments that you're talking about.
Right. It's not that pendulum that was swinging between the populist left-wing governments and the authoritarian right-wing governments. That pendulum has stilled in the center.
But most people, when they talk about emerging markets, are really talking about Asia.
They are, and I think there can be a curse of being BRIC, which is that it tempts countries to sometimes think the work is done. And a lot of what happened, and I saw this in India, and I think it probably happened elsewhere also, when you get called BRIC by Goldman, a certain class of the country kind of feels we're all set. And a lot of the hard slog of development, as opposed to the sexy stuff of building software companies and great university campuses, the hard slog of getting the little things right over a 50-year journey actually fall away from the conversation. So I think actually sometimes it's not very helpful to keep anointing people with these acronyms.
Even when a country finds a rose in its locker, it still has to prove its fundamentals. So very interesting insights on which emerging markets are going to emerge. More on that and other relevant topics at bigthink.com.